So welcome to Researcher's Desk and this Wednesday's seminar. Today we will listen to Mohanna Zarei, who is doing her PhD studies at Stockholm University at the Department of Physical Geography. And she will talk to us about echoes of change, listening to water's call for a new era. This will be super interesting. So Mohanna, take it away.
Thank you so much for the very nice introduction. And yeah, I want to now, I'm going to share my screen. So do you have it?
See your screen, but the presentation. Yes,
yeah,
perfect. Perfect.
Great. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here. And welcome to my presentation on Echoes of Change, Listening to Water's Call for a New Era. Well, I'm a PhD student. My name is Mohanna Zarei, and I'm doing my PhD at the Stockholm University Department of Physical Geography. I got my bachelor and master's degree in civil engineering, majoring in water resources management and engineering. And now I'm doing my PhD in hydrology, which is really fun and interesting. And I hope you enjoy this presentation today. I don't know if you are eating your lunch or just listening to the presentation. I hope you find it interesting to some extent, or even maybe informative. Well, starting with the title of my presentation, Echoes of Change, Listening to Water's Call for a New Era. I would like to share a personal story of my life and explain why I highlighted these two keywords in my title, change and water's call, and what do I mean by this? Well, I'm coming from Iran, and I was born in a mountainous region in Kurdistan, west of Iran, and my hometown is full of natural water resources. We even have a goddess for water. We call her Anahita, and my grandmother used to live nearby her temple. And growing up, hearing stories about water and how sacred and important it is in my life, I started to believe that water is something beyond a natural resource, is a sacred symbol of life. And I remember that I used to follow the sound of water wherever I was going in my life, and I started to grow up, and I felt that that sound has changed. Water became completely silent in some places in my country. As you can see here, this is Lake Urumia, the largest lake in the Middle East, and it wiped out of Earth's face after 3 years. And it didn't happen in just one night. It happened because of mismanagement and inefficient agriculture, climate change, wrong policies, and so many other reasons, which it needs another story and another presentation. But what I mean is, when I say the sound of water has changed, I mean water became completely silent because of the drought. And a little bit going towards south of Iran, as you can see, I still clearly remember about 5 years ago, it was Persian New Year, it was late March, and nobody could believe or expect this deadly flood happened in that part of Iran. And it caused a lot of damages and harms, and so many people, they lost their lives and lives and loved ones. And I could hear that water is screaming loudly. And this kind of frequent changes, they started to happen a lot. And after some point, I started to think that maybe they are stabilizing themselves as a new pattern, something that I never saw in my life to happen. And it wasn't only in Iran. As you can see in this map, the rivers where the flow exceeded flood threshold in one day in Europe, you can see those orange and purple colors. That shows the river that exceed the high flood risk and severe flood risk. It means 1/3 of rivers in Europe exceed the high flood threshold, and 16% of rivers in Europe exceeded the severe flood threshold. And actually, it explains a lot why we had so many flood events during 2023, even before that. And also just recently, what happened in Valencia was such a disaster and such a sad story, happens for so many people. And when these natural disasters they happens, it's not only only a problem for one night. When they happen, you need to start from zero if your life survive from those disasters, and they bring a lot of problems. So it was the time that I started to think, okay, we are entering to a new era. First of all, we should believe that. We should acknowledge that we are in a new era that requires more attention, because the problem maybe is more complex than we thought. But still, there are solutions. Well, as I mentioned before, I smell in the air, I felt it in the earth and in the water that everything is changing. And it wasn't only about water quantity or quality. Also based on the research that I've done, I started to figure it out that the conflicts also over natural resources, over water has increased, especially from the place that I'm coming from in the region in the Middle East. It became a lot, and it was happening more frequent. So it was the time for me to listen to water's call, because I felt that water is calling on me, and it's time for me to answer that call. But first of all, if you want to answer a call, you need to listen to it. And as a PhD student, I started to think, not, I was researcher at that time. And with that amount of power and level of power that I have, I was thinking, how can I contribute to this situation? And how can maybe I can make an awareness about what is happening? Well, it was really interesting for me to know how my peers, how other researchers think about the situation. Because as you can see, and with the examples that I gave, water is kind of playing a central role in all of this. Water has a connection and interlinkages with different components in the Earth's cycle. In the water cycle, as you can see, water has connection with geosystem, has connection with global challenges. And it was, I wanted really to see how other researchers address this kind of linkages and in their research, and in what study scales and what study regions that they conduct their researches, and how they even look at water. Do they look at water as just groundwater or only surface water, or as an integrated system? So we did a scoping literature review as the first step in my PhD, and we looked at research papers from 1980 to 2021, and we got almost 6,000 papers, and we looked at them to see how researchers looked at water and water problems and how they address those. And we got very interesting results, and you are more than welcome if you want. You can go and take a look at this paper. It has a very comprehensive results, which I didn't have time to put all of them here, but I'm going to mention the most important results that we got. Well, as you can see, South America and Africa has been addressed in less than 7% of all of the studies, which is a very huge gap. But still, when I say gap, I don't mean something completely negative. I mean also there is opportunity, there is a space for improvement. It requires more attention. And the impact and pressure of human activities has been addressed in less than 10% of the studies. And groundwater, surface water as a coupled system, as an integrated system, has been addressed in less than 1.5% of the studies. When it's come to methodological aspect of the research, less than 1% of all of the studies use participatory methods. Participatory methods basically means how you go and communicate and deal with stakeholders, which is a huge gap. And the number of studies that address cross-scale case studies is so much less than small-scale studies. So small-scale studies, for example, single catchments, and they are more dominant. So we need this kind of improvement. But the question here maybe is why this is important, and why we even did this. Maybe you ask this question, okay, so what now? Okay, we did this because we understood after this research that research on terrestrial water interaction with other geosphere and key challenges of Earth system changes is rare, even though it's rare, but it is impactful. And we need to know this because persistent neglect of terrestrial water system or water on land system linkages and interactions and their variability at a smaller scale, and aggregation to average conditions over larger scales would continue to confuse our understanding and limit our ability. We need to know these linkages. We need to ask these questions, and what are these linkages, in order to be able to predict the variability and changes of water in connection with global challenges. I put the links here if you are interested to go and look at the paper and the data also base we developed for this paper. We did this, and it was time for me that, okay, I still need to answer the main question. The main question was, okay, why water is changing and how it's changing, what is happening? The main question was still there for me. And, I'm sure that most of you, all of you, you are using data on your daily basis, basically for everything. So when also we want to look at water changes, we go and look at data. But the question here was, which data? Because there are a lot of data resources out there, model-based, reanalysis-based, observational, satellite-based. And people are using basically all of those. Some of them are widely used, but does this mean that they are necessarily also correct or accurate if they are widely used? So it was a lot of question buzzing in our head that, okay, what should we do? How we should address this? Maybe we can synthesize a database and we can compare some of these data sets that maybe work better for water on land, and see what are the consistencies and divergences, and what data is going to say to us and tell us. But we need a fundamental investigation key in order to compare this data set. And the fundamental investigation key for variations and change trends for water on land is catchment-wise water balance, which means basically how water fluxes and storage balance each other in an area. Catchment is an area of land where all precipitations drains into a common outlet. Some people call it drainage basin, some call it watershed. They are the same, they all the same concepts. And it means that precipitation minus evapotranspiration minus runoff should be equal to delta storage. It means that we have water balance in our catchment. But okay, which databases and how we should do it? Now we know what is also a fundamental key for investigation. Well, we started to look at, first of all, runoff data. We wanted to have purely observational data for our study, which was catchment-wise. And the first quality control check for us to have the data for 30 years, because 30 years based on World Meteorological Organization represents a climate condition. So we find data, or we chose 1,561 catchments around the world, which they met all of the quality control checks. And for those catchments, we started to make the database. Well, the database includes information for monthly and annual information for evapotranspiration, precipitation, soil moisture, temperature, runoff, and delta storage. And it includes 4 different data sets that we call them OBS, mixed, GLDAS, and ERA5. OBS is basically observational, purely observational data, which is from ground observation, and also we consider that water balance is 0, or water balance closure is happening in that data set. So based on the equation, we could calculate observational evapotranspiration. But for the other data sets, for example, the mixed data set is a mix of satellite-based and modeling-based evapotranspiration, and also observational-based precipitation, temperature, and other variables. GLDAS also is the global GLDAS reanalyzes land surface modeling of evapotranspiration and all variables, and ERA5 is the global ERA5 reanalyzes global climate modeling of evapotranspiration. And why this database is important, and what is different about this? We harmonized all of this data, so they are comparable. You can compare them together, and you can look at patterns and divergences and consistencies of the different variables, and basically you can find out which one works maybe better for water on land. And we got, again, very striking results, which I'm going to mention some of them here. And one of them is the first result that we got is the highly divergent annual average storage change for all of the data sets. Well, as I mentioned before, we consider that delta storage or storage changes is 0 for the first data set or observational data set, but GLDAS showed the results that GLDAS showed was so close to observational one, but we saw a very odd result for ERA 5 and mixed. And I highlight ERA 5 because ERA 5 is data set that very wide use. And mixed is something that we just wanted to see if observational and model-based data work together. So we put it together there. But ERA 5 is something that people are actually using, and it shows a heavy drying storage change bias, especially for Southern Hemisphere, very unexplained, very unexpected. And that was one of the biases. And we started to think, okay, maybe it's not the best choice for doing research on water on land and using only ERA 5. There are also some benchmarking results. The 4 data sets agree well on the long-term average values and a spatial variation of the temperature and precipitation. We also looked at the covariability of between different variables and also the relationship between them. And one by one, we looked at their patterns, also over time. And we got, and still getting very interesting news for different also parts of the world. And I hope that I can share them also in future with you. But the question maybe for you here would be, okay, so what? You did this, what is important and why you did this? Well, we didn't do this here to say, okay, ERA 5 is an enemy, don't use it. No. The message here is the selection of large-scale evapotranspiration and climate-focused data models and projection requires a thorough realism check. And in simpler language, it means that if you are using data, please be careful because there are a lot of range of data out there and we can be easily fooled by data. And if you're doing research, first of all, see for what purpose you are doing research and for what specific regional part of the world you are doing research. And then it would be nice if you could look at more than one data set and don't completely trust and put your trust in only one data set. And to support this, actually, we have compiled this globally distributed multi-catchment data synthesis, which is where you can have open access to it, as I put the link here. And the paper just got published that explains how we did this and why it is important and how you can even use it for your own purpose. So knowing all of this made me to think, is that enough? No, it's never enough. This is a very nice picture from This is Water by David Foster. This fish is asking his friends at Morning Boys, how is the water? And they say, what the hell is water, even though they are living in the water. So it means that the most obvious important realities are often the ones that are hardest to see and talk about. And sometimes solution, we are looking for the hardest solution for our problems, but sometimes maybe the simplest solution in front of our eye is there and we just forget, we ignore to look at it. So no, it's not enough. We still need to continue work on this, be more curious, be more skeptic, and develop this work. And not only in my own research area, also other research areas. And after this, it comes to my mind, this question, okay, how we can adapt to this new era? As you can see in this cute cartoon, I don't know, should I call it even cute, because it has a very controversial message. As you can see, these people are assessing the impact of climate change, but they don't face each other. They don't look at each other. Their back is toward each other. And as long as we have this attitude, I don't think we can solve a problem. It is really important to acknowledge that we don't know everything and we need to collaborate with each other. We need to communicate with each other. As a PhD student, not only a PhD student, as a person who is doing research for almost 10 years, on water, I learned some trivial principles. Maybe people think they are trivial, but I think they are fundamental principles that can help you to move forward and adapt with this era, this new era that we are living in. The first thing is curiosity, and then the critical way of thinking and asking questions. What do I mean by curiosity? I mean that if you be a skeptic about what you are doing, if you be open to criticism and asking question, and don't trust anything for 100%, and always asking this question, if I'm doing the correct thing, if this is the right thing to do, it means that you care for something. It means that you have that sense of responsibility. And if you have the sense of responsibility, it means that you want to make an impact. And if you want to make an impact, it means that you care who are your audience and why this is important for you and why this is important for them to be influenced by you. If you are going through this, it means maybe you are ready to communicate your science. And when I say communicating your science, I don't necessarily mean with politicians or going to a parliament, take your paper with you and discuss this with someone, a politician there. No, you can start from the small community that you are living and you are working with them, and you can make awareness by thinking about, first of all, thinking what do you want and what do you want to communicate. Then you need to feel them, you need to make them to feel what you feel. And then you need to build that trust by using common grounds, or maybe creating common grounds. And then you can ask for call for action. But for all of this, first of all, you need to acknowledge your role as a researcher. And in the beginning, I said, okay, I have a limited power as a researcher. I acknowledge that, but also I have a lot of power because I have this ability to communicate with a different range of people in society and community. And for being able to do all of this, you need to stay updated. I know how frustrated it could be to go through the news every day and look at the news, but it is really important for us as researchers to be updated, to know what is new and why it is important. This new thing could be a problem, it could be a solution. And it's really important to know about this. And being present, by being present, I mean going to, I don't know, conferences, workshops, this seminar series, and just talk and share your knowledge and getting feedback from people. This is really important. And by all of this, it means that you are reaching to that point of that you are prepared maybe to do something, and you take an action by learning from past and your limitations, and realistic planning for future. And the most important thing, I left the most important thing for the last, it's hopefulness. I don't mean hopefulness, I don't think it's the same as optimism, which is really nice to be optimistic about everything, of course. But hopefulness means to be being enough enthusiastic to do the right thing, and being hopeful that it lead to an action. It is really important to be hopeful when you are doing research, when you are facing a lot of failures every day, and still keep going the day after. So I'm going to also show you an example about how we can adapt to NERA, which is very interesting and amazing, that how solving big problems can start with really a small solution, and all it takes is just people and some planning. And this is again, sorry, someone has a question. And yeah, so as you can see in this slide, this is the map of Iran. Why I use Iran as example a lot? Well, let me make this clear here why I did this. Because Iran is a country that used to face a lot with water crisis during decades, and you can find a lot of interesting examples there how people adopt their life with this situation. And this was something that really caught my attention and piqued my curiosity when I saw it online in YouTube. I put it also the link here, so you can also go and see it by yourself if you are interested. These markings that you see, they are not fish scales. This made by digging small digging a shallow hole and pushing the soil into a curved mount on one side, they help to actually save water or keep water, trap water in these holes, and this water would help to moisturize the soil. And also there are a lot of dust storms happening in that area and that part of Iran. It also helps to stabilize some of those dust storms and reduce the risk, because that part of Iran is facing a lot of water crisis due to the wrong policies, due to the climate change. And we call these features contour bonds. Of course, if they're wider than 4 or 5 meters, we call them contour bonds. If they are less than that, we call them half moons. And yeah, they are an adoption solution for an era that we are living in, and there are a lot of problems. But it means also for all of the problems, you don't necessarily need to go to politicians. As I said, all it takes is just people, some planning, some effort of, not some, a lot of effort, of course, dedication, and just a shovel. I just want to finish my presentation by saying thank you to all of you to listening to me. And I want to finish it by a nice piece of poem from one of my favorite poets, Saadi Shirazi, when he said, "Human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain." Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to your question or discussion and your comments, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for a very interesting talk.